LinkedIn is great, but most B2B consultants don't use it right. They're hypnotized by the masses of LinkedIn influencers who peddle the message that you only have to publish valuable content and the world will come beating down your door after a week's worth of posting. Well, if like me in the past, you have been posting for months or even years without seeing much in result, you know how useless this message is. And today I'm going to show you a very straightforward framework for how you can start conversations with complete strangers and book actual sales calls, not just networking calls with them. I'm also going to show you 3 examples of real actual conversations that have brought me clients on LinkedIn. But we will also discuss 3 big downsides of getting clients on LinkedIn and why you shouldn't be betting on the platform as a long-term client acquisition channel. So let's get into it. My name is Michael Bohannes and I help B2B consultants build scalable client acquisition systems and stop depending on referrals. And let's head over to Google Docs because you will retain much more information if you listen while you read. So in what situation should you use LinkedIn for client acquisition? There are 2 scenarios where LinkedIn is extremely useful. The first one is when you're starting out, you've had no or only few clients. And if you've had a few clients, you've been doing very different things for them, right? So there's no consistency in your offering. And you want to use LinkedIn as a source of insight rather than earn, you want to learn. LinkedIn is great for striking up conversations with people, book networking calls where you can ask them questions and understand the pains and problems of your target audience, right? And easily those networking calls can turn into sales calls, right? Nobody's going to look negatively at you if you have like a perfect fit and you say, honestly, John, I think this is really something we could help you with. Would you be open to, can I tell you about how we could do that? Okay, as long as you do it respectfully and you acknowledge that you originally framed it as a getting to know each other call. And the second situation is when you have already had a good amount of clients, but mostly via referrals, and you are ready to start building scalable client acquisition systems, and you're looking for the holy grail of client acquisition, which is a combination of words that will get complete strangers to book a sales call with you. Even if you've already had clients, this is not a trivial accomplishment. And of course, yes, you can run cold emails, you can run ads to a landing page with a webinar funnel. But starting on LinkedIn is a very good training ground for you because it offers you one advantage that cold email or webinar funnels cannot give you, and that is qualitative feedback. People on LinkedIn will tell you in DMs why your offer doesn't resonate with them or why the problem you're trying to help them with is a non-issue where they don't need help with it. Right? So that is such a crucial ingredient because in cold email, people simply will not respond. In a ads and webinar funnel, they will just not click the call booking link, right? And you will not know why. LinkedIn gives you this kind of qualitative insight. And another huge advantage of booking calls off LinkedIn is that you can book calls even if you don't have a strong offer yet. You know, just by being friendly and professional, you can book discovery calls with ideal target clients and use these conversations for creating your offer in the first place. And by the way, when I talk about your offer, what do I mean by that in a B2B context? I elaborate on this topic at length in this video that I recently posted, so please take a look at that if you don't know how to build a B2B consulting offer. So that's the main reason we want to use LinkedIn, and that is to get qualitative feedback from prospective clients about their pain points and book calls easily. And when I say book calls easily, it really is way easier to book a call with a stranger over LinkedIn than any other form of outreach. For example, our best ever call booking rate over cold email was 5%. Using LinkedIn, I routinely get 10%. And one of our clients, Martin, he even managed to achieve a 14% call booking rate. The story is here on our website, alphaleadacademy.com. You can just go there and watch the video. And outside of these 2 scenarios, so you starting out or you want to move to build scalable client acquisition systems and you want to get qualitative feedback on your offer. So outside of these 2 scenarios, I strongly recommend against relying on LinkedIn as your primary client acquisition method. And I know this can be quite controversial, but I think that spending a lot of time on LinkedIn is a bit of a fool's errand and you're not doing yourself any favors. Because the only way to do this is by spending a lot of time on LinkedIn yourself consistently over a long period of time. And that really is deadly. You don't want to rely on a channel that by its nature relies on you. And you also don't want to have somebody to ghost write your content, ghost engage as you. It just will not work. I've never, ever seen this work. Maybe the writing, that's fine, but not the engaging, right? And you want to build something that once it's in place, that can be run by others or it can be automated. No owner of a 7-figure company and beyond spends or should spend more than 10 hours a week on client acquisition. This stuff needs to be delegated as much as possible. Not initially, figuring out that holy grail, what is the combination of words that you need in order to get strangers to book a call with you, that you need to invest time into. And there's you just need to put in the time. There's no time limit on that. But once it's done, you should not be spending more than 10 hours per week doing this work. And so I elaborated on this once in this LinkedIn post where I dissected Luke Matthews' growth strategy. He's a LinkedIn influencer. He's a great guy. I really like him, but I think his growth strategy has one big Achilles heel, namely that it really relies on him and his personality. He spends 8 hours a day on LinkedIn, or at least was spending it when I was writing that post. And that's self-admittedly, right? Engaging constantly, commenting, crafting elaborate posts and videos, just being everywhere on LinkedIn, being unavoidable. But there's only so many hours in the day. And if you spend 8 of them promoting yourself, how much time will be left for building an amazing product and building company structures in which you can delegate tasks and remove yourself from the day-to-day? So now that we've covered the 2 scenarios in which using LinkedIn makes sense, let us discuss how we can actually do this. Well, first we have to grow our network, okay? And there are 2 ways of doing this. One is where you use Sales Navigator, where you simply use filters to narrow down your target audience and send them connection invites. That way you'll get anywhere from 10 to 30% invite acceptance rate, slightly higher if you can get a very specific niche or people who are, let's say, in one specific group or who are interested in one specific, very niche influencer and so on. Usually it's in that range somewhere. And so you go to Sales Navigator, you have to buy this, of course, it costs some $100 a month. And you then can filter, let's say by company headcount, by job title, geography, and a niche. And then you have here 3,000 results. You can click here and connect with them. And that's how you can grow your network. You can, of course, also automate that, but then the connection rate tends to drop. Okay. And a better method, which takes more time, is find an influencer in your space and harvest their target audience. You connect with them. You can bond over the fact that you both like this influencer. Hey, John, I see we're both fans of Sam and his content. Let's connect. This should get you a 40 to 60% invite acceptance rate. And given that LinkedIn limits you at anywhere from 100 to 200 connection requests a week, this is actually a really worthwhile effort to do, because you will get, let's say, double the amount of new connects than if you were to do it via Sales Navigator. So example here, you go to Sam Brown's, for example, he's an influencer in my world, and you just go to his post and you click on who liked his stuff. And then based on what you can see in their description, you can assess, well, is this possibly a client for me or not? And then you just simply click on their name. You opens in a new tab if you hold the control key down, and then you can connect with them. You just send them a connection request. I happen to be already connected to Nathan, but you can send them a connection request and say, hey, Nathan, I see we're both fans of Sam Brown and his content would be great to connect. Okay, so that is a better way. Why is that better? Of course, because when you are bonding over something that you both like, you're slightly more likely to get a match. And then once you've connected with them, you do what I call conversational prospecting. And that's a very specific way of conducting a DM conversation where the main aim is to uncover a pain point that you can help them solve and getting them to book a call with you. Now, both of these elements are very important, okay? That they need to fit your target avatar, but also they need to have the pain point. There are people on LinkedIn who teach you a way of conducting DM conversations that get you higher call booking rates than what I get, which is around 10%. But the problem is that if you book sales calls with people who do not experience a specific pain point, the feedback you will be collecting will lead you astray. And here's a quick anecdote on this. One day, someone tried to prospect me on the issue of building a good team culture. And at the time, I didn't have much of a team. I had maybe one virtual assistant, so I wasn't interested in the subject. And team culture is not an issue when you have one VA. But this lady kept badgering me and wanting to talk to me, still asking me, well, once you have a team in place, what do you think will matter to you in terms of team culture? And that's a very, very dangerous game to play, because you don't want my hypothetical opinion on what might matter to me 2 years from now. I simply don't know. And I would be just feeding her stuff that she might want to hear. And so my insights at this point, before I have a team, would be very misleading for the lady, right? Because I simply don't have the pain point that she is trying to solve. So it's really important that you only aim to get insight, or you only aim to book calls with people who fit your target persona, only if they have the problem that you are helping to solve. So your target client has to tick 2 requirements. They need to have the correct demographic markers. For example, we sell to B2B consultants. Anyone selling high-ticket knowledge-based services, whether it's a project fee, a monthly retainer, or a pay-on-results model. And the second requirement, one that's easily forgotten, right, is that they need to have a specific pain point that you help them solve. It's a very bad idea to try to do customer discovery with someone who doesn't have the problem you solve, because they will give you ideas for your service delivery that will lead you astray. So only take input from people who have the problem you help them solve. So with that said, what does an actual good LinkedIn DM conversation look like? Let's take a look at 3 or 4 examples that have booked us calls that subsequently became clients. So this first case, I even have a little diagram here that sort of outlines the stages of outbound prospecting. And that is the connection message, ideally the one, hey, I see we're both fans of XYZ, let's connect. Then we have an opener and rapport building. Then the bulk of the conversation will be in exploration mode. And then we go for the close, which on LinkedIn conversation prospecting is offering a call. Good. Let us look at a specific conversation where I've only changed the name and a couple of identifying factors. Good. So here is my opener. Hi, Diane. I see we're both fans of influencer and his content. Would be great to connect. Diane says, now we move into opener and rapport. Hey, nice to meet you, Michael. Do you mind if I ask how your name is pronounced? Is it an alternative spelling of Michael with an E? I say, yeah, my parents were poor and couldn't afford an E. At least that line got me laughs at parties when parties were still a thing. We were doing this in COVID. She laughs and I say it's pronounced just like Michael. And then she says, cool. Now when I read it in my head, I know I'm pronouncing it right. Thanks for connecting. Okay, now we have nice rapport built. There is some good mood between us. What is next? Exploration. And this is very often what people have a problem with. How do I transition from rapport into exploration? Then you just simply do it, right? This is the best recipe. You decide what you want to talk about. And ideally, you could do it over something that is on their profile. That is usually a very good transition point and something that pertains to their business, to what they do. So I say, wow, you've been a freelancer for almost 6 years, not like everyone else, 6 months. She says, yeah, never full time though. I still have the safety net of a 9 to 5. And I ask, is that your main gig or is the employer your main thing? Ah, yes. And you want to keep that safety? No venturing out into the jungle of entrepreneurship yet? She says, when I left journalism for marketing, I was in a position that didn't use a lot of storytelling and I missed that. That's why I started freelancing and it's kind of snowballed from here. I honestly would really like to try my wings at this full time. I really love my team at employer, but I have to admit I have no passion for the product, so the work gets pretty boring. When you've got a mortgage and 2 kids, walking away from that twice monthly paycheck is scary though. Say, haha, well, that product is hardly the thing of passion, right? It's blah, blah, blah. Then I thought, I'm just kind of still empathizing with them over the product. I think it was tiles, so it was like, oh yeah, industrial tiles is not really fun. And then I say, well, I was thinking if it's nice ceramic tiles, that's nice, but industrial tiles. And because she had her freelancing as a writer, I said, yeah, the problem is, as a writer, it will be tough. Such pricing pressure from the whole world, and you cannot prove immediate ROI. She says, yeah, so I don't know. Right now, it's working for me to have the safety net, although it's boring, and the side gig to build my skills and keep my brain sharp. If the freelance business grows to where it looks like it might be viable, that would be cool. So what about you? Sorry, I haven't checked out your profile yet. I say, actually, I was just thinking, I normally only work with people who are full-timers, but do you have client testimonials on your freelancing? Any major success stories with it? E.g., a really well-converting landing page that people raved to you about. And she says, my most fanatical customers are my content clients. Copywriting is still a new area for me, but I've been doing content for years and have some pretty happy customers who keep coming back. I say, awesome. Well, now I have enough information to be able to offer the close. I say, it sounds like something I might be able to help you with. Would you like to schedule a quick 15-minute call to get to know each other? Worst case, it'll be great to network, no matter if I can help or not. If that works, I can send my scheduler, or if you prefer, we can arrange a time manually. And she says, sure, no harm in chatting. And she then became a client. Good. Example 2 is this one. And this is interesting because he was a tiny bit standoffish, and that's always good to practice. What do you do when people give you a little bit of a challenge? So I say, hi, Jim. From one solopreneur to another would be great to connect. He says, sure, happy to expand my network. I say next day, hey, Jim, good to be connected. Love that background image of yours. Few people invest in creating something like this, and it makes a difference. So you see, again, the rapport building as well as the transition into the discovery phase can very often be tied to the LinkedIn profile. Okay, so a few people invest in creating something like this and it makes a difference. Or unless you found a really good stock image for free, that's also a possibility. I'm curious, what's keeping you busier these days? Company 1 or company 2? That was because he was supposedly working at 2 different companies. He says company 1 is a client of company 2, so company 2 right now. Are you talking about my LinkedIn image or website or company LinkedIn page? I said, no, I meant your profile's background image, the ships and containers. Very evocative. I strongly recommend that people use that background image not to sell, but to be evocative, to work on the subliminal. And you're doing this very well. Okay, so you're listing a client. Got it. Do you have more clients at the same time, or do you work full-time for one client before you move on? And he says, I guess a few Daniel Pink books paid off for a supply chain mind. I have multiple clients, only one with this unique ask. And then he says, I value my time and I value yours. Please be direct. What are you looking for? And I say, no problem, Jim. I help consultants with getting new clients on LinkedIn, scaling their offering via product packages. I normally ask a few questions, whether there's a need before mentioning that. But since you asked, so wondering if the above is something you could make use of, right? So when he says, dude, and you will very often find this from the most valuable clients, right? When they say, dude, cut the crap, tell me what you want, right? Really, like successful people don't mind being sold to. So whenever that happens, you can rub your hands because this is very, very good if you have something valuable for them. He says, I don't think many people would turn down new clients, so hard to argue. I do not need A. The question is always ROI or return on time for me. And then two quick questions for me. I asked two quick questions, 100% mindful of your time. Number one, what are you currently doing to get new clients? And what's the ROI on that? Number two, how much time or money are you spending on new client acquisition? He says, number one, and by the way, I would not have needed to do this anymore. I could have simply, after he said, I don't think many people would turn down new clients, I think I could have absolutely said, hey, let's just do the discovery call, just like I did that with Diane. You absolutely can go straight for that. But in this case, I just kept going. What are you currently doing to get new clients? And how much time and money are you spending on client acquisition? He says, leveraging my network, leveraging job boards to understand client needs, and word of mouth. He says, no money, but time invested is typically a fairly strong lead that can deliver a face-to-face. I say, got it. Thank you. That opens up even more questions, but I'll let you judge for yourself whether the following is worth a 15-minute exploration call. Network is great, but it tends to be unpredictable and dry up over time for most consultants. It's great when it happens, but what do you do when it doesn't? For the times when it doesn't, I've created a system of organic client acquisition on LinkedIn via personalized outbound and content. By the way, we're way beyond LinkedIn now. Of course, this is from a while ago. Content is a long-term game, looking for that secret key to unlock easy inbound leads at scale. And in the short run, outbound can get you clients pretty instantly. My best clients in this regard had a client within 2 weeks of working with me, Dana Hera, in my testimonials. And Jim says, I'm available Monday, blah, to chat if that works for you. All right. So that was another one that also later on became a client. And the last one that I wanted to show you is a great example of diffusing somebody potentially volatile and quite difficult. This is from one of our clients. And our client, Scott, said, hi, Greg, I love what you're doing with company. The pun is just perfect. Happy to connect here. And then after they connect, he says, hey, Greg, love the brand story and how you created the Thai company you wish you had. I'd be curious to know how your website conversion rate compares to your Amazon store. All right. That is a little bit on the nose. He just goes straight into exploration mode, does not do much rapport, but it's worth a shot. Greg says, thank you for your message. Due to the overwhelming amount of spam I receive, I now charge a $100 fee to speak with me. If you'd like to set up a call, you can Venmo me $100 at blah, blah, blah. After I receive notification of payment, I will message you times and days of my availability. If your product or service is as great as you say, then surely the nominal 100 fee will be worth it. Scott says, and this is it, like, what do you do when somebody tells you that? Most people would just drop the ball and like a hot potato. But Scott went straight for it. He says, that's a very clever way to keep spam down. I was wanting to know more about your business, not tell you about mine. I know your time is valuable, and I don't mean to tie you up. And also, especially because it was a Thai company, there was a nice pun here. I don't mean to tie you up. Greg says, so why ask about my Amazon conversion rate? What's yours? And Scott says, because I'm trying to get more insight into the e-commerce space, and I find it interesting how websites perform compared to Amazon. I notice you have a strong web and Amazon presence. I don't have one, and I don't sell apparel or do much e-com work for others yet. My background is in editorial. In editorial, we have leaned into social companies like Facebook and Apple to reach our audiences, but they were fickle to work with, but had good reach. So from that perspective, this interplay between Amazon and web is academically interesting to me. And Greg says, so if you're looking to discuss that, then feel free to book a call with me here. And that is how Scott wonderfully circumnavigated this potentially volatile client. Now, there's so much to this. There's a way more examples that I could show you. I mean, we have in this document, we have like 30 something pages of purely conversational prospecting. So there's much more to it, but I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of how you can conduct conversations with strangers, even if they are a little bit standoffish and volatile. And so if you run your DM conversations like this, you will have no problems booking sales calls with prospective customers. And now let's briefly discuss LinkedIn content, because in this context, What role does content play? Do you even need it if your main aim is to book calls via DMs? And I like to compare it to a fire and lighter fluid. You light the fire with outbound conversational prospecting and use LinkedIn content as the lighter fluid, as a fire accelerant. People are far more likely to respond positively to you over LinkedIn DMs if you are posting high quality content that shows your expertise in a given area. So content makes a lot of sense, but there's no need to do more than 1 to 2 pieces of LinkedIn content a week. Now, sorry to be a little bit of a downer, but you shouldn't be betting on LinkedIn as your long-term client acquisition channel. Why? It has 3 limitations. So there's a volume limitation, right? Only so many people you can approach. LinkedIn gives you somewhere between 100 and 200 accounts that you can connect with. And that is not all that much. If you have a very large total addressable market, approaching 100 people, and not all of them will accept you. So effectively, you can only message, let's say, 20 to 30 people a day at best is not a lot, right? We are sending 250 cold emails a day. And there's lack of outsourceability, right? Sure, you can automate the connection messages and the first messages, but then you might as well do cold email, because the call booking rates when you use an automation will be pretty similar on LinkedIn as they will be on cold email. And then finally, and that's an interesting one, DMing people, especially if it's automated, reduces your status, right? As in, like, you being perceived as the, hyper expert in your niche. You would most likely not get DMs from whatever, Simon Sinek, right? Or Bill Gates, right? It's like, when you are really high status, you don't want to decrease that status by DMing people and soliciting business, so to speak, right? On cold email, you're much more, it's not directly tied to your persona. Of course, the cold email has your name, but you do not have this immediacy of this is directly tied to your shop window. So it's good to separate your social media from your active client acquisition channels. If you don't mind these 3 downsides, then keep going on LinkedIn. But I think that you will find yourself maxing out at 20 to 30K a month. It's really hard to grow beyond that if you cannot outsource your client acquisition. But please don't get started with this if you do not have your LinkedIn profile optimized. You don't want to have an ugly shop window if your aim is to get buyers through your door. So if you believe that your current LinkedIn profile could use some upgrading, then please watch this video next, where I show you the 9 very straightforward steps on how to improve your LinkedIn profile.